New images of Pluto. A few hours ago, NASA released this picture of a massive flat plain on the frozen northern part of the dwarf planet. This week, I sat down with Mark Taylor. He's the manager of the planetarium and science programs at the Hudson River Museum in Yonkers to learn more about Pluto. So, Mark, why should we care about Pluto?
Well, basic way to think about it is that Pluto is essentially part of a family. So there's several families or groups of siblings in the solar system. We have the sun, stands on its own. We have the rocky planets next to the sun. We have the giant planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And then there's all this other stuff. And for a long time, Pluto was the odd man out, but we've discovered how to actually include it in our family of planets by making it essentially the king of the Kuiper Belt, this other region of icy objects, asteroid-like, planet-like, somewhere in between, out there past Neptune.
So it sounds like there's a lot of actual scientific advancement that we can get out of this visit as opposed to just discovery for discovery's sake.
Well, whenever we explore something that we've never seen before, we discover things that we haven't known before, and then it's the job of scientists to try to explain it. Scientists like to see things that confirm their previous hypotheses, but at the same time, they also like to see something which basically blows whatever they thought they knew apart and means that you have to figure out things from the start again. So one of the things that we're discovering, for example, is that this is a solid body which is tilted at the same angle as the planet Uranus, and we've never seen that before. So we don't know exactly what the dynamics are with materials evaporating one place and coalescing back onto the surface in another. So we're going to learn a lot about the dynamics of the chemistry of a surface like that.
Logistical question. For most of our lives, Pluto was the most distant planet. Now it's the most distant dwarf planet, I guess.
Right.
How far away is it? And how it took 10 years for this probe to get there.
Right.
So how does that impact the communication and our ability to learn about it?
Basic problem, Pluto right now is about 3 billion miles away, a little bit more than that. That means that unless you could send an enormously powerful signal from that distance, the information that we send, it has to be at a very low rate, has to be very low information density. If you imagine somebody in a room whispering and there's a lot of noise in the room, they'd be very hard to hear. If you picture somebody in a room whispering and the room is completely silent, then that's okay, but space is not completely silent. So what we have to do is we have to send a very, very low information density signal, like 1, 0, 1, 0. Your computer goes 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, because the parts are all right next to each other. They can be, closely connected to each other. There's nothing else interfering with them. But in order to make sure that we're getting the information back, we have to send the data back very slowly. That's essentially the issue.
So, Mark, what have we learned about Pluto so far thanks to New Horizons?
Well, one of the things that we've learned, thanks to New Horizons, is that its surface is simply more complicated than we thought it would be. We had no idea what to expect. And it looks like there are some regions on the surface which are covered with this sort of bizarre frost, which look almost like frozen yogurt. Then there's some areas where it looks like the surface maybe has flowed a little bit. Other areas which are dark, we don't know why. Some areas which are lighter colored, we don't know why. And it doesn't seem to be perfectly related to the poles and the equator. There's other things going on there which we don't quite understand.
And I assume that's one of the things we're hoping to learn as we get more information from New Horizons. What else are we hoping to learn? What are you hoping to learn?
Well, one of the things which will help is when we get higher resolution images. Right now, the smallest object we can see in the images on Pluto is, maybe about the size of one of the outer boroughs, Queens, Brooklyn, maybe the size of Westchester. Over the next few weeks, as we get more and more information back, we'll see higher and higher resolution. That'll make it easier to understand what we're looking at. As of yet, we're just starting to get enough information back that we can figure out what things are made of, how things are distributed on the surface, but we can't really tell in detail all the things that are going on. And that's going to take a while. Until we get all the data back, that's going to be about 19 months from now.
Are we looking to see if there are components there on Pluto that might foster or have fostered life? I know that's one of the things we always seem to look for in our exploration.
One of the strange things that we've discovered actually is that it used to be that we thought you had to have a planet like the Earth in order for life to exist. But now we've discovered that there are things on Earth which live in what we think of as a not very conducive environment for life. Not Darwin's warm little pond, as he speculated, but things which live deep down in the crust of the Earth, things which live where there's boiling water emerging out of the ocean floor. And if things can live under conditions like that, then maybe underneath the surface of a planet like Pluto, maybe there could be a place for life to exist. We don't know.
So, about New Horizons, it's
Yes.
it's flown past Pluto. Where's it heading, and what more? Do we expect to learn anything more from it?
Well, again, it's going to take at least a year to get all the information back, so scientists will be analyzing this for years to come, I'm sure. But the spacecraft itself, the hope is to send it by another one of those objects out in the Kuiper Belt, that region of space that Pluto sort of rules as the largest object out there. And there are 3 candidates, smaller than Pluto. We have to figure out exactly where they are, whether or not we can change the spacecraft's course to do that, and of course, whether or not NASA gets the funding to do it.
Do we know when that might be? Like, what's the next? When should I circle on my calendar for when we might hear more from?
It would be several years. It took 10 years to get to Pluto. New Horizons has enough power to keep running. It's got a little plutonium battery, basically runs on an amount of plutonium about the size of a grapefruit. It's got enough power to keep running for quite some time yet, but it might be another 10, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years before we run by another object.
We'll look forward to that, and we'll be sure to have you back at that point. Mark Taylor with the Hudson River Museum. Thank you so much, Mark.
Good to be here. Thank you.
So here's where we want to get you involved in the conversation. Head to Facebook and Twitter and sound off on our question today. Would you go into space if you could, right now, tomorrow? Curious to see what your reaction is. Up next, our Hudson Valley headlines. Stay with us.